Color gradients in digital art are really pleasing to look at, but they're really hard to pull off in Paint. In this video, I'm going to share with you on how I create my gradients using golden fluid acrylics. I'm also going to be showing you what I do on the iPad, and if you don't have an iPad where you design out your artwork, that's okay. I'll show you how to get to the gradients using a website. So my new plan is to remake those colors of the clouds. And one of the quicker ways that I've found to do this is I go to colordesigner.io, navigate up to the tools. You have a gradient generator. Since I did this already, I'm going to plug in the numbers here. So these are the colors that I currently have in my Procreate image. And this is a great website to get all sorts of different tools for your colors on what you're designing. I have a link down in the description. So let's move over to Procreate and I'll show you what I've been working on. So here's the painting. Here's a photo of it. I decided that I needed to work on this painting a while ago, and I didn't really know what to do with the clouds. So after spending a couple nights on it, this is kind of what I came up with using the colors from colordesigner.io. And the way I selected these colors, it was nothing specific. It was just picking them out of the color wheel, going, that looks all right, and that one looks all right. And then using those colors and just applying them as a new look on the background here. And I really like it because if I toggle between these two, you can see that this pink cloud is quite harsh. It's not as nice and subtle as that would be. So that's kind of what I'm going for, is I'm trying to get some more subtle gradient throughout the image to make it look a little bit more coherent and nice. Now, what can we do about picking out some colors from Golden's fluid acrylic line? Unfortunately, they don't have anything that's fluorescent like what you see on the image. So going back to the computer, and in your web browser, go to goldenpaints.com. At the top, there's a Resources tab, and click on Virtual Paint Mixer. Here we're going to select out of the drop-down menu when you first open this up to Fluid Colors, and we'll go over to the Numeric tab. So between colordesigner.io, you have all your RGB values in all of these different gradients. I wrote them down in a notebook, and I am going to plug in a couple of these values to see what kind of colors we can come up with. And you can see what the target is in this box here and what kind of paint colors we can make with the existing paints from Golden. Unfortunately, this is one that we can't actually make. So I'm just going to write down what the names of the paints are, and I'm going to go and see if I can find how many other colors of paint are needed in that gradient. I already know that there's going to be a certain number of colors, so I'm just going to navigate to those now. Here's two more. I wrote those down. Here's another one. We already wrote down titanium white, so we have 5 colors. And out of the 5 colors, I know I can get rid of zinc white. Zinc white's a little bit more transparent, and I'd rather stick with titanium white. So now we only have 4 colors we're working with. So I'm going to remove that blue and navigate towards Quin Magenta and add it here. This is going to be the one color that I'm going to modify the most, so I want it next to the white. And then I'm going to go to the blues, and I'm going to pick out Dioxazine Purple, add that, and Ultramarine Blue, and add that. So this is going to be the 4 colors I'm going to use. I could start out with 0 purple and 0 blue in my mix, but what I have found through some trial and error is the jumps that happen when you add in those other colors are pretty significant. So I tried to mix all of them in with the bases and work from there, because then your colors are not going to be as harsh between the transitions in your gradient. I like to go from the lightest color that I have to the darkest color. So here I'm going to put in 100. And the way that I think about these parts, it's a ratio. I think about them with the fluid acrylics as drops out of the bottle. It's the easiest way for me to measure this. Now the drops aren't always the same. They're not perfect every time, but it's the closest thing that I can get to that I can count and easily replicate time and time again. So after some work here, I'll put in some numbers that I've figured out, and I'll kind of give you the reasoning why. So this is going to be the lightest color that I'm going to have in my mix. If I go back to my numeric, I can then copy that RGB value and save it for my Procreate image so I can see what a potential final product would then look like. So my goal here is the first 3 colors, I really want them to be within a certain range. So the reds within a certain range, the greens within a certain range, and the blues within a certain range. And I can do that by just adjusting how much of these colors are going to go into that mix. When I start adjusting this one down, I take out, let's go 90. You can see this changes over here what the mix would look like, and so does the RGB values. And so I actually decreased this fairly significantly. I brought it down to 60, which would put my reds at a 10-point change. It brings the greens 16 points down, and then the blues about 10 points down. So now that I have these values, I'm going to adjust the next set again. I'm going to try and see if I can get to around 10 change, around 20 change, and another 10 change for the RGB values. So I'll just decrease this down by about 10. All right, got some changes, but not quite enough. Let's try another 10. That looks pretty good. I'm now down about 12 in blue, about 13 in green. Not enough, but that's okay. I'm down exactly 10 for red. So using this mix here, I can write these numbers down, write down what my mixes are for the paint, and then I can continue moving on. Now I made a little bit of a note for my range here. I thought that, so the 7th mixture, we've already done 3. The 7th mixture should show some purple. So I'll add purple in, and you can see immediately that it drops me down 10 points in red, but only 5 in green and only 2 in blue. And to offset that, I add 1 part magenta. Okay, that's good enough. We'll start there and we'll see if we need to make any adjustments. So I wrote down that mixture, and then for the next one, I know I want to add more purple. So I add another purple. It drops me down 9 points on red. That's pretty good, but not quite enough for the green and blue. So I'm going to add another part magenta. So you can kind of see it's a little tedious to do this, but what you start to notice is there becomes a pattern with the reds, with the greens, and with the blues when you're mixing these together. So I'm going to do a couple quick jumps here. I'm going to adjust these so that I can have them on screen so that you can see the progression. Over the range of these colors, they're not as vibrant as the ones in the painting, but I didn't expect them to be. The RGB values, they stayed fairly consistent between the changes as much as I can control it. And that's just kind of the balance with making these gradients with the paint, is you want to try to just add a little bit of this or add a little bit of that, or even subtract. You'll see closer to the end, I started taking out some white to get those RGB values closer to what I wanted. So now that we have all these colors, what do they look like together? Now I'm going to jump back over to Procreate and show you what they look like. So here we are on Procreate, and I'm going to add in this group here and take out that one. You can see the original colors that I've found on that gradient, and then these are the adjusted colors of what we could actually make with the golden paints. And they are a little bit more like a Portland feeling would be like. I mean, they're kind of gray, muted, dull colors. It's going to work well with this painting. And I know that these colors are going to actually mix up like they show they will on the Golden Paint website. So now the next step is to mix these colors up. I mix up my colors in all of these little jars. It makes it easy for me to come back and go day to day without losing paint. And this is the test panel that I use. It is well used. I'm going to keep reusing it so you'll see it in future videos. Sometimes I don't mix the paints well enough and it does cause some issues. So as you saw, I had a problem with one of those colors. It came out quite a bit darker and looked like the next shade down. I went back and remixed it and just started fresh, and it actually came out quite well. So there's the final gradient. And over here, I've taken the 5th and 6th colors, so the 5th darkest and 6th darkest, and just put them together and see what they look like. And there's enough of a good transition there. That's really where the purple started coming in, and I'm quite happy with it. It looks like clouds. So thank you for watching. If you like what you saw in the video, please give me a thumbs up. I really appreciate it. It helps me move up in the YouTube algorithm, and that's really like all hail the algorithm kind of thing. If you have any questions for me, you can leave them below in the comments. I will respond. And if you want to see what that finished artwork is going to look like, hit the subscribe button and it will be showing up on the channel in a while. And if you want to watch more of my content, there's going to be something here on the screen. Cheers.